Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexx here with another Master Duel video for you guys. So today we are coming back to Swordsoul Tenyi once again. It's actually a little bit earlier than I did anticipate coming back to the deck, but that's totally fine. Because one, I think this deck is very powerful, and I do plan on using it a lot anyway, but two, actually when I uploaded the Season 9 deck profile, I was looking at some of the comments there, and they actually pointed out that I'm missing an interaction with Heavenly Dragon Circle, which as always as ever, this is one of many reasons that I love hearing from you guys in the comments, and honestly why I think it makes me personally a better player, and all of us in turn. Because like, I don't know, I'm just imagining a world where like I don't upload videos, right? And I'm like building this Swordsoul Tenyi deck and I just don't realize this for like way too long. Basically what I'm referring to is the interaction with Shthana. One of actually the main reasons to play Heavenly Dragon Circle, which again I do have to thank multiple people in the comments for pointing out, is that you can use it to dodge Valor and Imperm, right? Like if your Mo Ye gets Valored, you can use it to dodge that and you'll still get your token. But then what you can do is summon the Shthana there, and then that will allow you to then synchro and then continue your play. That's basically what Heavenly Dragon Circle is. Not the sole use of it, but it's one of the main uses of it. So yeah, again, if I didn't have like you all to help me with that, I would have been playing that card or rather this card, yeah, without Shthana for just far too long, far longer than I should have, which I guess I did a little bit, but whatever. So it goes, we're only human. So I did end up taking the droplets out of the deck in order to make room, or not the droplets, the desires rather, for to make room for the Shthana, and then I threw in a copy of Feather Duster because I really did want to find room for this card, especially now that I've been playing on the Season 9 ladder a little bit more, and I'm seeing a decent number of Eldritches. I didn't think we were going to see like such a decrease, or like any amount of a decrease in them, but I didn't really expect to see a slight increase in them. It's not like too much more. I think that I've seen normally on the ladder, but it is a noticeable amount, enough more that I've talked about this in other deck profiles, right? I'm kind of making a conscious inclusion to try to include Harpie's Feather Duster and as many decks as I can in this current meta, just from what I'm observing on ladder right now. I actually mentioned Droplet earlier because I've seen a couple of comments asking why we're not playing Droplet in the deck. I don't really like Droplet in Swordsoul Tenyi in general. Droplet really is one of those cards that like not every single deck can use. A lot of decks can utilize it, but not every single one. There are some decks that really just don't kind of have the resources to spare, and Swordsoul Tenyi is one of those. And what I mean by that is like, when you think about your average Swordsoul Tenyi end board, it's the Chi-Shao, the Baronne, the Protos, and then like maybe like a Blackout or something face down. But you kind of needed all of your resources in order to be able to get to that point. And usually when you get to that point, it's like pretty rare to actually have like a significant number of cards left over in your hand. Like usually you have one, maybe two if you're lucky. So in that regard, I just don't think this deck has enough extra resources after its initial plays to really justify playing Droplet. Like I would max out on, I mean, obviously Imperm and Droplet aren't really comparable, but you could definitely max out on Imperms. But again, Droplet I just don't particularly like in this deck. I don't think we have enough cards to set for it. Like honestly, think about it, like enough of the time you kind of have a hard time with Blackout because you end up in a scenario where you have to send a Chi-Shao if you're going to use it, and usually your opponent will play in a way where you have to kind of debate if you want to use a Blackout or like save it and try to use Chi-Shao's effect first. So again, just when you think about it in that regard, I don't know, that may just be a me thing in a bunch of scenarios I've come across where again, you have Chi-Shao as your only Blackout target, but like even that happens often enough that I can't see Droplet really being super duper worth it in this deck. I really just can't, honestly. Again, I just don't think it has the resources to spare. So yeah, those two changes are the only ones we've made to the main deck. Again, -2 Pot of Desires, +1 Tenyi Spirirt Shthana, +1 Harpie's Feather Duster, which are changes I'm satisfied with. Desires definitely is not essential to the build. I don't want to call it like a filler card. It wasn't quite filler. It's still good for getting advantage, but definitely not necessary. And the extra deck is still, of course, 100% the same. So yeah, now that we've talked about the deck and we're up to speed with that here, let's go ahead and break it down card by card before we take a look at some games. So we are playing 1 Deskbot 001, 3 Tenyi Spirirt Adhara, 3 Maxx, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 1 Tenyi Spirirt Shthana, 3 Swordsoul of Mo Ye, 2 Swordsoul of Taia, 2 Incredible Ecclesia, the Virtuous, 3 Swordsoul Strategist Longyuan, 2 Tenyi Spirit Vishuda, 3 Tenyi Spirit Ashuna, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 1 Archnemesis Protos, 1 Harpie's Feather Duster, 3 Swordsoul Emergence, 2 Call by the Grave, 1 Crossout Exterminator, 2 Heavenly Dragon Circle, 2 Infinite Impermanence, and then 1 Swordsoul Blackout. Extra deck will have 1 Yazi, Evil of the Yang Zing, 2 Baxia, Brightness of the Yang Zing, 1 Borload Savage Dragon, 1 Draco Berserker of the Tenyi, 2 Swordsoul Great Master Chi-Xiao, 1 Chao Fang, Phantom of the Yang Zing, 1 Baronne de Fluer, 1 Swordsoul Supreme Sovereign Sheng Ying, 2 Monk of the Tenyi, 1 Crystron Halqifibrax, 1 Shaman of the Tenyi, and then finally 1 Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon. Alright, and now that we have covered all the cards in the build here, let's go ahead and move on to the games. Okay, so this first game here is going to be against Despia, which it's the deck I definitely plan on getting more into sooner when the, rather soon when the new support comes out, sooner rather than later, if I could just finish a thought. Sometimes that's the hardest part of making these videos, just finishing a thought. So yeah, opponent's gonna lead with an Aliber. I'll throw out the Ash here. I usually like to Ash the Aliber. They usually have the means to fuse anyway, but no reason to give them the extra advantage if we don't have to. And sure enough, here they do have Despia Theater of the Branded. They'll send that off with the Edge Imp Chain here, which of course will let them get the Fright for, you know, the one that adds Poly and another Edge Imp Chain. So the Patchwork, that's what it is. So they'll get a little bit of advantage in that regard, but nothing I'm like super concerned with here. So and then, like I mentioned, yep, using that to add the Poly and the Edge Imp Chain. So they do have a Masquerade Dragon. What I was not anticipating was a polymerization for a second Masquerade Dragon. So that's actually pretty scary. Now, in order to activate any card, or to activate any effect, we're going to have to pay a total of 1,200 life points, cards or effects even. Jeez. So I do have a plan here. Basically, I'm going to try to, well, my plan was to use Baxia to spin away both of the Masquerades, but I totally spaced on the fact that I needed to use Taia in order to do that and not Mo Ye. I was too allured by the draw of Mo Ye. The draw, I meant the card draw, but you know, allured draw, I guess that works too. But yeah, no, I totally spaced here and forgot, like, oh, because I only used one attribute, because the Swordsoul token and Mo Ye are both water, so I only get to bounce one of these Masquerades instead of both of them. So that's a little annoying. We're going to end up taking a little bit more damage than we need to as a result. I think 1,800 more damage than we need to as a result, but I don't know, that's not like the end of the world or anything. Yeah, here we're going to use the Longyuan, or rather use the Ashuna to go into the Longyuan, and then go into, of course, who else but Baronne de Fluer. And I do actually want to use the effect of Baron to pop the Despia Theater before I battle here, because I don't want my opponent to get back one of their monsters when I destroy, what is it, the Aliber, and then they get back a fusion, I believe it is. So yeah, definitely don't want that to happen. And I'll go ahead and call by this other Masquerade Dragon. So now one's in the deck and one's banished, so we don't have to worry about them like coming back anymore. That's you know, the other very annoying part about Masquerade Dragon is that you kill it and it just keeps, well, I mean, only once, but you know what I mean, it comes back. So we don't have to worry about that. Our opponent's more or less in top deck mode with only 2 cards in hand. They actually activated Brand Opening here, and I decided to let it resolve just on the off chance that their last card in hand was something they wanted to discard, or like would be better in the graveyard, but it was just another polymerization, and they just ended up summoning another Aliber here, so we can just negate that with Baron, and then doesn't seem like they've got much of anything left going on there, so that is going to be a win for us. I'll love to see it there. Alright, let's go and take a look at the next game. Okay, so we're up against a 60-card variant. This one is a 60-card version of, you know, Danger Kaiju, Little Light, all that fun stuff. It looks like they were just kind of going hard on a whole bunch of tech options. Like, I saw raw sphere modes, I saw just, you know, the whole litany of uncommon disruption cards. So this is definitely not an ideal going first hand. Like, yeah, we did get to go first, but like, I mean, you know, we had to open this hand. So you know, even though we opened like Tenyi Spirit Ashuna, which we could special in the normal Deskbot and go into Halq, of course, Deskbot is our only Halq target in this deck. So I have thought about maybe including like an O-Lion or something. Oh, I've seen some decks will include like an O-Lion and then also like a little Denglong package into Swordsoul Tenyi. So, you know, there is, I guess, a bit of a spectrum to it between Swordsoul Tenyi and Adventure Tenyi of like how much Swordsoul stuff do you take out to go into. Well, I mean, you know, at that point you would just take out all this, like almost all the Swordsoul stuff for the adventure stuff there. But yeah, in any case here, so we're not able to go into really any plays at all, so we'll just set the Imperm and the Call By, and then just give it over to the opponent. So that said, Imperm and Call By are like better disruption tools by themselves than I think a lot of people give credit for. Particularly Call By. Like, Call By is so often seen as just like, oh, this is the anti-hand trap, you know, card. But like, there's a lot of different effects out there that Call By can stop. I think Call By is an effective disruption tool in and of itself. Obviously, you kind of have to go second for you to be able to use it during your opponent's turn. But oh, and the reason I only set one of the Call Bys is because I didn't want to get completely blown out by Harpie's Feather Duster. So I'm going to lead with an Imperm on this Luna here because I don't want the quick effect to bounce my monsters activating. And of course, while I have no monsters on the board, that effect can't activate because, well, I don't have any monsters to bounce. So yeah, we'll throw out the Imperm now just to kind of get that over with. And yeah, now we can kind of combo without fear. And now we can go into the Halqin. Even though we're summoning the Deskbot from the hand, that's still fine. As long as we're summoning the Deskbot, that's the most important step here. So, alright, now from here we're doing some fairly normal Halkdon shenanigans. The one thing we do a little bit differently, because our opponent does actually have a card on the field for us to destroy, we'll just use the Yazi's effect to destroy itself and the Luna. And not the Auroradon. The Auroradon is also going to be, you know, fairly useful for gathering an OTK here, because I'm pretty confident with this setup that I can just deal more than enough damage to finish my opponent off here, with the Auroradon too on top of that. Okay, so at this point it's like relatively standard combo stuff. You know, obviously wheeling the Shthana back to hand because we're going to get back the Taia with the Baxia, or not the Taia, the Mo Ye with the Baxia here, and then, you know, a little bit later after that, then we're going to use the Longyuan. So we need that Word Monster in hand, and that's why you want to, you know, wheel something back with Adhara. Adhara and Ashuna, I always get mixed up. You want to wheel something back with Adhara, so that way you make sure you have the Worm in hand in order to be able to activate all of your effects that you need to utilize there. So, yeah, like I mentioned here, we get the Mo Ye. I'm definitely fine using Call By on the Gizmak here. I don't need it disrupting me, and, you know, getting it out of the graveyard is nice if the game continues for long enough for that to be relevant, which does not seem like it's going to be doing here. Alright, so we end up with the Longyuan as well as the Shthana, like I said, and then yeah, at that point my opponent realizes, like, oh, I'm just going to summon the Baron, and then from there it's going to be GG. So yeah, good games there, just a solid pivot into an OTK, which was not too difficult to do at all. Again, one of the many strengths of Swordsoul Tenyi is it's not just consistency, but flexibility in the number of scenarios it's able to play effectively. So, alright, let's go and take a look at the next game. Alright, so this one we came up against Adventure Pranks, which is, I've seen it a few times. I've seen it, I think, about as much as I expected to see it, which is about, like, Tier 2 status. In terms of just representation, as far as, like, power level goes, it's something we'll have to evaluate a little bit more as the meta settles. But just in terms of, like, number of opponents I've seen play it, again, it's not been, like, too high. Definitely was not as high as before. You know, Miyamu went to 1, but still a significant enough amount of them out there that's it's really not that. I was gonna say it's not that big of a deal. It obviously is that big of a deal, but it's not so much that it's pushed Adventure Pranks completely out of the tier list. That may change in the future, but for the time being, it is definitely still a solid tier 2 deck in my opinion. So yeah, I'll use the Vishuda here, and then from there I'll be able to go into the Taia play. Excuse me. Yeah, basically Taia for Chi Shao, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the Taia to send the Adhara. Much like that last game, we're going to make sure that we have the ability to utilize all the cards in our hand, so we're setting up the Adhara in the grave to banish, to wheel that Vishuda back to our hand. Now we can discard the Vishuda for the Longyuan, which not only means that, hey, now we get a level 10 Synchro, i.e. a Baron, i.e. an Omni-Negate, But we also have, you know, just a good setup going into this opponent's turn here. With, of course, the Imperm and the Blackout here as well. Alright, opponent's going to lead with the Rite of Armistier. Basically, as soon as they go to activate the Faithful Adventurer, I'm just going to flip up my Blackout and then just sack Monk and blow up the adventure stuff here before it can start to get really just out of hand in general. I did think about potentially saving it, but I decided nah, it's a good time to use it. And it did end up being a good time to use it because, as you can see, the opponent decided to concede in response. So clearly the rest of their hand was just not enough to keep up with our board there. So, alright, that is going to do it for that game. Let's go and take a look at the next one. Oh yeah, I think I remember this one. This one's against Philanderies. It's going to be a little bit short, but it's kind of satisfying because, I don't know. I feel like any game I win against Philanderies is satisfying to go back and look at. It's like, it feels like such a triumph sometimes, even though the deck is like not super great. It's still definitely challenging enough. So, yeah. Looks like, yeah, of course they're taking the first turn here, and they're grabbing the they're using the Extravagance to, you know, dig into the terraforming there. I'm actually surprised. I was gonna say surprised I haven't seen more Extravagances, but I guess it's still been a fairly recent change. So, yeah, they just kind of end on this barrier statue and pass. I'm definitely gonna go ahead and negate that because I'm absolutely looking to summon more than just the wind attribute here. I'm going to lead with the Vishuda. Opponent's got a Maxx in response, but I'm pretty confident I can find lethal with a minimal, not like a low necessarily, but a relative to finding an OTK, a minimal amount of just perusing, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. Alright, so let's see, the Emergence is going to add Longyuan here. Now here I kind of have my choice of what I want to normal summon. I only have the one thing to remove, so I'm just gonna end up summoning the Mo Ye here, I think, and going for the draw, and then we'll just use Baron's effect to blow up the wind barrier, and then we can just smack our opponent for lethal with, you know, our 1000 attack Monk plus the 3000 attack Baron plus the 28 attack Chi, which I assume is being made here. Yep. Is exactly 6800 alongside Longyuan's 1200 burn. It's just it's very neat how perfectly that plays out. It's very what's the word I'm looking for? Serendipitous, yeah. It's almost like it feels like they almost planned it or something. Like, of course they didn't. Maybe they did. I don't know, but yeah, opponent doesn't want to wait for us to finish them off as they prove they don't have anything in their hand that can stop us. So. Yeah, we're able to take the win there with relative ease. Alright, now we have one more game to watch. Let's go ahead and jump straight into it. Alright, last duel of the video here is going to be against Live Twins, which I've been seeing a little bit more tonight than I did the past couple of nights. It's the night of the 3rd, by the way. The time that I'm recording this is what I'm referencing there. So, we're going second. We do open a pretty good going second hand, though, given that we have both Maxx and Ash Blossom. So when the opponent summons the Kiss a Keel, I'm just going to go ahead and throw out the Ash here and negate that. You typically want to save the Ash in against Live Twins for when they actually normal summon the Live Twin there. But the opponent has a secret password up their sleeve, which is going to allow them to get the Leela Treat, which is going to allow them to continue plays anyway. So as soon as they reveal the Leela Treat, because I know it's got an effect that special summons itself, I'm just going to go ahead and toss out the Maxx. Normally in the past I've said I'm an advocate for, you know, or rather against throwing out Maxx not in response to a special summon, or rather just in this scenario where you won't guarantee you get a draw. And typically I like to do that typically, but not always. And this is a scenario where I was glad I did not do that. So yeah, I'm going to bounce the back row here with the Vishuda, then normal summon the Mo Ye, reveal the other Vishuda in my hand, and now the opponent drops a Token Collector. I've actually never been Token Collector before this game, so this was like an, oh, that's new, oh, that's downright infuriating kind of experience. So, yeah, we're at least able to summon the Protos and call light, so our opponent's not going to be able to do like some live/evil twin shenanigans next turn, but still, that's a Token Collector, right? And I didn't even realize until this turn coming up here that Token Collector truly is the gift that keeps on giving there. Or no, maybe it was not this turn, but I'm just supposed to think of a different game altogether, but long story short, I didn't know that Token Collector could also come back from the graveyard. I thought it was just like a hand trap, like I thought it was a hand disruption tool, so, you know, imagine my surprise when, you know, during, oh no, it does happen in this game, okay, yeah, imagine my surprise here when, all of a sudden my, this Token Collector is just in my life and taking my goats from me. It's like, how do I turn this off? Anyway, so yeah, Jesus, sorry, I spaced out for a second there. So yeah, the opponent's gonna end up with their live twin plays here. We're unfortunately not able to do that, do anything much about that. Again, with the Token Collector turning our plays off there, it's just really, really annoying. I mean, Token Collector, I don't know, it's interesting. Like, it's such a borderline tech for me. Like, I don't know if it's really worth it or not, because it's like, it's mainly just going to pick up Swordsoul tokens and Adventure tokens. I actually think last format, when Adventure Pranks was around a lot, and there were more Prank-Kid tokens around, I think that would have been a slightly better time maybe to run the, what do you call it? The, geez, the card we just got complained about. Token Collector, that one. Then maybe this format, but I don't know. I guess there's probably still enough Adventure at least being played, and Swordsoul Tenyi as well, I think is going to see an increase in play, if not just an increase in where it is on the tier list there. So I guess like it does make sense, but at the same time it's just like, I don't know. Alright, yeah, here, I don't know, I decided to use the Ecclesia, and I was just, basically I was just doing things, I was trying to think of, is there any way I can play my way out of this? And it doesn't seem like there's going to be able to, not while I'm under Maxx, and the opponent still has the Triple Sunny and represents a back row, and then of course any, I mean, I don't have any spells, but any spells drawn aren't really outs from this point moving forward either, so that is going to be a GG. So I don't know, Live Twins, you know, as we all know, a deck I really like. So if I'm going to lose to a deck, I'm glad it's it. I'm glad it's what I like. All right, yep, that is it for the games. Let's now go ahead and move on to the outro. All right, everyone, I want to thank you very much for watching, especially all the way to the very end like this. That means a lot, not only to me personally, but also just in general, of course, to supporting the channel there. So yeah, and then comments, I'm always looking for comments. If you have any suggestions about the build or the games that you saw, like gameplay wise, like different combo lines I could have done, or different ways I could have played out of certain scenarios, definitely don't be shy about leaving those comments there. I love to see them. I love the feedback. I'm all about community-based learning. Again, I've said this a million times, but yeah, I don't really see myself in necessarily an instructor role here so much as like I'm just sharing the knowledge that I have, and I just, you know, ask and hope that you guys are doing the same, which you have, you know, very, very much leading up to this point, just for pretty much the entirety of the time I've been doing Yu-Gi-Oh on this channel, honestly. It's pretty awesome to see, and is a lot of the basis of why I say a lot of those things that I do about community-based learning being so effective, is because, well, through you all, I have experienced it firsthand. So thank you all very much. I am as appreciative as ever. So yeah, and then subscribing, that was the other one. Subscribing, again, great way to support the channel, and it keeps you up to date of when the latest videos are dropping, which just happen every single day. So you do get a daily Master Duel video out of me just for subbing, if that is any incentive to. But that is all the time that I have for today, so without further ado, this is Xlex. I'm signing out. Hope you guys have a fantastic day.